Welcome, welcome, welcome to day 2 of our Pigments and Petals, or Petals and Pigments watercolor challenge. Today is day 2. It is going to be a super simple project. All we're doing is we're doing a wash of watercolor, then we're going to outline some flowers with some waterproof black ink, then we're going to go back in and add some watercolor details to those flowers, and then we're going to add a little bit of gouache or either white jelly roll pen, depends on what you have, and add those highlights and it will just come alive. This is for beginners. This is a simple one. Anybody can do this. Also, this is for my patrons. I have resources, free bonus resources over in Patreon. So become part of my Patreon family. It's free. This challenge is for both my free members and my paid members. So hop on over there, get your free resources, and that will help you a lot. It gives you a tons of extra information that you might find helpful. So let's just go ahead and go to the studio and get started. To start this project, I want to first show you what I've practiced with. And these are 2 different ones that I have been practicing. This is super simple. It is for beginners. Anyone can do this. Make sure you get those free resources over on Patreon so that you can download some different flower shapes and try them out yourself if you feel like you're not that confident in your drawing skills. And here's a third one that I've done. So this one is super simple. You're going to need a sketchbook to practice in. You will need some 140-pound cold press watercolor paper. Oh, look, Darcy's hair is everywhere. Cold press watercolor paper. I've got some just printer paper I want to practice doing my composition on first. Some tape. I also have some waterproof black fine liners. I've got a size 06, a size 08, and a size 03. I've got a white jelly pen, or jelly roll pen, whatever. Just a paintbrush, size 8, and then I've got my set of watercolors here, the same set we used yesterday. And I am going to just mix up some different colors. This is so simple. I love doing this. But first, let's go ahead and just figure out the composition. Now, yesterday, in day 1 of our challenge, we talked about doing compositions and the different types and shapes of compositions that you can have. For this one, I think I want to do an S shape. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my guide. And this is just a little, just to see how I think it'll look. I want to do a large flower here in this sort of right before the S sort of curves. Maybe a medium flower here, a larger flower here, maybe a medium here, and then we can just fill in the rest. Maybe another large flower, I don't know, and another medium flower here, and then start filling in with some smaller shapes. And then here, of course, we can do some leaves, some little sprigs. You can do that here as well, or we can do like some clusters of flowers, here. So I think that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the S shape. I don't know, I might make these even larger than, yeah, I think I'm making these larger. I've got them too small for what I want to do. So I'm just make the circles larger just so I can sort of map it out how I want this. You want a variety of large, medium, small. You want a variety of shapes and a variety of color, but I think this is what I'm going to do. And then I'm just going to have little sprigs coming out from it of leaves or maybe flower sprays. I haven't decided. So that's how the basic shape is going to be. I'm going to go ahead and put away my printer paper. I'm going to put that to the side where I can see it just so that I can think about it. Then I'm going to take the edges of my watercolor paper off. I'm going to take those edges because I want to have a white border around this. Now, Oh, I forgot one thing you will probably need is either an old hair dryer, or go ahead and get a heat gun that you can dry your paper with, because this is a really wet, what am I trying to say? It's a really wet on wet technique, so you'll want to go ahead and get you something that you can dry your watercolor paper with. I'm going to tape these edges. Probably got it at the dollar store somewhere. I can't remember where I got it, but it's very cheap, so it's kind of coming apart. But it's going to do for what I need it to do. I'm going to just press those edges down. I don't want the water to seep underneath that tape. And then I am going to just draw a really, really light S. And I'm going to make it span the whole length of the paper. And then I'm going to do like a really large circle. And maybe another large circle. I don't know. Where do I want another one? Maybe another large circle right here. And this is just sort of representing. I might have gotten my S just a little too far down. Let's make this S just a little bit shorter. There, that's a little bit better. And I'm just erasing some of that. I'm trying to do it really lightly because we are going to paint over this. Another one there, maybe another one here, some smaller ones. So that's basically a map of what I want to do. Now I may change my mind in the process of painting. That is your painter's prerogative. So now the next thing that we are going to do is I am going to get some different colors of paint and just mix up puddles of that paint right on my palette. I think I'm going to go with a turquoise blue. And I think I may go with a, let's see, let's go with maybe a permanent rose. Maybe even some of that opera pink. Now these are really bright colors and it's okay. I'm going to go ahead and get some of this beautiful yellow, and that is a New Gamboge, and it's got a little bit of the rose mixed with it, but that's okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wet my paper. I'm going to go ahead and spray it because that'll make it faster. I'm just going to spray it with some clean water, but you can just use your brush to wet it. I'm going to go ahead and wet the whole paper with clean water. And then I'm just going to come in here and drop in these colors. I'm just going to drop it wet into wet all around wherever I feel like it. There's no rhyme or reason. I'm just putting it in there where I want it. Make sure I get it to the edges some. Let those colors mix and mingle perfectly well. Get some of the yellows in there. Wherever you want it, you can come back with some more of the blue into some spots. A little bit more of this blue in here. Now remember, it is going to dry much lighter than it looks on the paper. It always dries lighter. Watercolor dries lighter than it actually looks. So this is going to be a fairly light background, and it's fine. You can do it darker if you'd like. Totally up to you. You can keep adding, as long as it's wet, you can keep adding some of these colors. You can even mix them a little bit so that it comes into like a purple with this blue and this rose color so that you'll have some more variation. Totally up to you. Next, we're going to dry it. I am going to take my handy dandy little heat gun and dry this bad boy. So I'm going to turn off, I'm just going to turn off the camera and I'll come back once it's completely dry. But go ahead, dry this now. So through the magic of video, we have dried this completely. Now, if you're not confident with your drawing skills, go ahead and I have provided in my resources some flower shapes that you can trace onto your paper. If you are confident, you can go ahead and start with the pen. It's not that I'm not confident, I just don't want to start with my pen. I am going to go ahead and draw on here some of my flowers that I want to do. So let's see. I'm going to do a little bit of a half circle here, a little bit in here, and then just give an indication. This is going to be the center. It is going to be a peony. And you know they have those little fringy centers, so I'm just going ahead, putting that in there. Let's go ahead and do a petal here. And a petal here. Let's do a petal. Just keep going around with different shapes of petals. And then sort of connect them in behind each other. Let's do a big petal here. Let's make it look like it's curling up maybe a little bit. A little petal here. Let's do one sort of peeking over here. Let's see, do I need, I think one, let's see, one more maybe? Maybe one right here. So I've got my first flower. Then here, let's do, let's make a little bit of a center for this flower. And I think I want to make him a little bit bigger. But again, if you feel confident in your drawing skills, you can go ahead and just do this with your black pen. I'm doing it just so that I know I have a lot of beginners and I don't want them to feel like, oh, I'm not going to start with the pen because I'll mess something up. So I'm just showing them an alternate way. You can just go ahead in there with your pencil and do some beautiful flowers. I want to do sort of a, I don't know, one of those peonies here that has just tons and tons of those ruffly petals. Let's do them here. And you just want to sort of put those in between each other, in between the successive rows, the next rows. You just want to put those in between each of the other petals. And you can make the shapes be a little bit different on the outside. Just vary that shape however you want to. And then maybe, let's do like a side view. So of one of those petal flowers. And you can do more petals. Let's see. Like so, and then let's do another peony here, or some sort of flower. We're going to just do the circle, and then of course we're just doing a little bit of that fringe on the inside so that it has a center. And then we're just going to do petals that are sort of overlapping from the center. It doesn't actually have to be a peony. It can be just a multi-petaled flower. And then maybe we can put a little bud out here. Maybe 2 buds, I don't know. Alright, there. Maybe a bud out here. That's too fat. I think that's too fat. Then maybe some smaller flowers. Another one of these little petal flowers. Put that here. And just all go around that center. And you can put, well, we could just leave it just like that. And maybe another petal flower, a smaller one here. And we'll just do like a little tiny center. You could even do another small one right here. Even smaller. Just to sort of fill in the space. Oh, let's see. Oh, let's see. Let's do one that's like sort of peeking from the side. So you'll want that bottom leaf to be sort of oblong. There. And then we'll add our leaves last, but I am not going to do my leaves with pencil because we got enough pencil on here. I'm going to go straight for my number 8, and I'm going to do all the outlines for the petals of my flowers that I just did. Now if you want to fill up this whole paper with flowers, feel free. Use whatever composition style you want. There are lots to choose from. Make up your own however you want to do it. Alright, so now I have the basics, and I am going to come back in with a smaller pen. I think I want to try the 06. If it's too fat, then I'm going to go to the 03, and I'm going to go ahead and put in this center. Ooh, that looks a little fat to me. Let's go to the 03. Might be a little too fat. And then yeah, this one's better. 3 is better. And we're just going to do those little fringes that are in the center of a peony. You can do some smaller ones. Then let's do a few lines out on the petals. That helps give it some direction. We're not doing a highly detailed drawing, but we do want to give it a little bit of movement, a little bit of direction. And why not do that with our pen while we got it out? So just some lines, just a little light line work, not too much, but enough to give it a little bit of movement. And then we want to do these little centers here on these, and then this one is sort of around, and then this has sort of the fringes too, but it may or may not be a peony. There's other flowers that have this kind of center, so it doesn't have to be a peony. And we're going to do some line work here. Now remember, this is a 03. You want it to be small enough to where it's not too overpowering, since this is just little tiny details. You can even do a few coming in from the top. Maybe a few more here. You can also do some lines on this one. Just however you want to do it. You don't even have to do these lines. These are totally optional. The one thing I do regret is I do got my first pencil in there just a little bit too dark, but it's okay, then we'll just deal with it. Do the same thing with this one, and I'm just doing just a few little lines here and there, all of them sort of radiating out from where the center of the flower would be. And some on this flower, on these petals. And we want to do the center of this one. And a few lines generating out from the center of this. Okay, we're just coming right along. I'm just going to do small little marks. Now you can come in and add more flowers if you like. Again, it's your composition. You can add more flowers if you want to. I'm gonna keep that. I might let's do a flower down here. I want one of these little smaller flowers here. Maybe another, maybe just, well, we can put a leaf there. So we can do another little flower here if we want to. Maybe one that's sort of looking sideways. So we're going to do the bottom petal here, long and thin. And put the little center in. Alright, now let's do, let's go ahead with the leaves. We're going to go to our number 8 again, 08. And let's just tuck in a few leaves here and there. You could also tuck in some more. Let's see. Do a leaf here. And a leaf here. You can also tuck in more flower sprays. Let's do a nice big leaf here. Maybe another one coming out. Let's do a little, let's see, let's do another one here. Just one though. And you can do your lines in there, however you want your lines. Happy little veins and our happy little leaves. You can do some smaller leaves here. Go right off the paper if you want to. I'm going to do a little smaller bunch of leaves here. Maybe another one right beside of it. So now I'm just sort of filling in where I want like a little bit of extra texture, extra leaves. Again, it's just up to you how you want it to look. I might do another leaf here and another one here. Maybe a little spray of leaves here that's sort of in behind all of that. Maybe a bigger one coming out here. And another one here. Alright, that is it for, I think, the black ink for right now. So I am going to dry this really quick with my heat gun just to make sure that all of the ink is dry before we add the watercolor. So now all you want to do is just put some more watercolor layers onto your flowers. And I think I'm just going to start at the top. I'm going to go ahead in here with this red, but I think I am also going to add in just a little bit of maroon here. Let's see, what color is that? Yeah, a little bit of maroon in there just to darken it up. And I am just going to add some marks, some shadows. And I'm starting with really dark toward that center. And then I am just taking clean water and pulling that toward the edge. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. And let me get a little bit more of that darker maroon, and I'm just going to go just tap it right in this, right around that center, because I want it to be nice and dark there. And now we're just thinking about shadowing, highlights, but we're doing it really simplified. Like I said, this one is perfect for beginners. I'm just picking up some of that extra pigment to give it a little bit of a highlight, and all I'm doing is drying my brush slightly. It's still damp, and I'm just going over that pigment, that paint, and then wiping it on my paper towel, and that way we can pick up some extra. I think I want to go with an orange, more orange. So I am going to mix a little bit of orange into this. Let's go with some transparent orange. Oh yeah. I'm going to mix in some of this transparent orange and a little bit of Naples yellow together to get sort of a nice orange here. I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. Again, starting with around the center. And on each one of these, I'm going to do the same thing. But with this one, instead of using water to sort of lighten that, I'm going to come in and get a really nice light yellow, water it down, and just put that yellow on the tips and let those blend while that orange is still wet. Put the yellow on the tips and just let that orange and the yellow come together and blend. So that is another way to get some different colors around there. I am going to come back again, just like I did on the other one, load my brush up with some thick orange, and I'm just going around that center like that. Oh, I got orange in my yellow, so I'm going to put it in a different spot on my palette. Put a little clean water in it. And these are probably, no, they're not dry yet. So we're just going on that outer edge, letting those two colors, the orange and the yellow, mix and mingle while they're still wet. And while it is still wet, you can pick up a lot, pick up some of the orange straight out of the pan or wherever you've got it, and just touch it around the center into that wet area, and that'll darken that up and give it a little bit of contrast. Now I want more of a purpley look, so I'm going to get a little bit of the blue, and I'm going to go ahead get a little bit of that blue. I'm going to rinse off my brush. I got too much yellow in it. It's going to make green. I don't want green yet. And a little bit of the rose, so I can make a little purple here. So now I've got sort of a purple, and I'm going to go over this one. This flower, I want it to have a little bit more purple in it. And then I'm just going to take a damp brush and just like dab along the border of that, those edges, pick some of it up with my lifting technique with that damp dry brush, and take a little bit more of the purple and put it just right near the base. Just tap it in there with the tip of your brush. And this one, I'm going to do the same thing with the orange. I'm going to do some oranges in here, but I am going to also on this side do a little bit of the red, so it's like almost turning red on this side. These aren't meant to be realistic, these are meant to be fun, so you don't have to necessarily follow the rules of how the colors may look. Totally up to you. I'm just going to take a wet tip of my brush and pull these colors out toward the tips. I'm going to load a little bit of that on there. You can come back and get some of your yellows too if you want. Or mix it up a little bit, put a little yellow in there. Especially on the ones that have the orange. And you can do it on the ones that also have this gorgeous rose. You can go ahead with the yellow, it'll just make a more vibrant orange. Now this one I'm going to go ahead with this really deep rose color right around the edges. Right in that center. And then I'm going to wet my brush and just sort of pull it out toward the edges. And I'm just taking clean water and just sort of puddling it around there. Put some more here. And I'm trying not to cover up my black lines. Some of my paint is a little bit opaque, so it is, you know, kind of covering those up. Trying not to do that as best as I can. And just take a little clean water and spread that out. While it's still wet, I am going to dig into that maroon again, that dark maroon. And I'm just going around this very center part. And I'm just loading my brush up with that pigment, and I'm just dropping it right in that center. Then I'm going to come back with my orange again. We're going to do this one orange with the yellow. So we're doing that darker orange. I'm going to pick up a little bit more of the transparent orange. Like so. And then I'm going to dip into my yellow. And that's a nice lemony or cadmium yellow. It's up to you which one you use. Lemon or cadmium will work. Alright, and then you can come back and get some more of that orange and just go right around the center to darken that up some. You can even do some blue if you want. I'm going to go with some purple. I'm going to add a little bit of purple. Let's go with a Windsor purple. Let's see. I don't like that purple. Let's just go with some straight purple right onto this one. And that's Windsor purple. Again, you can make your flowers whatever colors you want. It's going to look best if you try to deal with the color that's in the background, try to just layer those over, but I'm doing it a little bit differently on this one than I did on my practice ones because I'm just experimenting a little bit. And I think I'm going to make this one purple just because I feel like it, and I'm going to make that one orange. Let's make this purple. We'll make this one orange. And then tap a little yellow in there, let that mix and mingle. And I am going with this really bright pink, I think, for these buds, because that's what I want to do. So we're just going with some pink in there. And I think I'm going to go with the purple in this bud. Alright, now another thing you can do is you can come back in and do a few more darker lines if you want. After it dries some, you can just go right along those. That just gives a little bit more detail. This one's not all the way dry, so I don't want to go too far into that one. Get some orange here. And do a few little lines there, just a few little shapes. Just adds another layer of texture to it. Same with this. You can go in there and darken up some areas with the darker orange after it dries a little bit. Up to you though. You can stop at any time you want with your painting. And do a few little lines there. Let's pick up some purple. Let's do a few lines on this, just around the center. And you can do some on those outer petals. Alright, now let's do some greens. Now I have got a nice green mixed. Here, let's wipe it down and I'll mix the greens where our other colors are. That way you can see the greens that I'm mixing, which is only fair. Now if you want a more realistic green, a good rule of thumb is you can add a little bit of red to it. It just knocks it back a little bit. Let's get some green gold going. And I think instead of red, I am going to mix a little bit of brown with my green gold. That's too much brown. Well, let's go back and get some more green gold. Ooh, that is just too much. Ooh, that is bright. That's almost just gold. I don't like that, so what I'm gonna pick up some of my aqua blue. There we go, and tone that down some. That's much better. So that was just a little bit of aqua blue into that green gold. Let's get a little bit more of that aqua blue, and let's mix in some perylene green, which is a really deep green. Mix that. I might yeah, and then let's get sort of a, let's get some sap green. Now let's mix just like a little bit of olive brown into that sap green and see what happens. That tones it down some. And we can get a little bit more of this green gold mix. Let's try some of the cadmium yellow in there. Oh yeah, that's better. That's good. Alright, so I've got 3 different greens. You can choose whatever greens you want to use. And we're just going to paint the leaves in. So I think I'm going to start with this really dark green. I'm going right around the edge where the petals of the flower would cast a shadow while it's still wet. I'm coming back in with that a little bit of medium tone green. And then I'm going to hit it with this really pale green at the tips. And then you're just going to paint all of your leaves in different ways. Let's do this leaf the same way. Don't worry, we got one more step after this. I'm going with that bright green. Or maybe 2 more steps. And if you see a spot you feel like it needs a little leaf, just put one in there. Just tuck one in there. It's up to you. It's your painting. I'm going to do a lighter leaf, a lighter green here. Now when you're doing this, I want you to pay attention to how these colors affect each other. The initial color wash that we put down, it reacts with the next wash of colors that we put over. If you put the same colors, like this is a yellow-orange area, so I put yellow-orange over that area, those look much brighter when you do it that way. When you put the pink paint over the area that was already pink from the initial wash, those become brighter. When you put the pink over the blue, it becomes more shadowy. So I want you to just really notice that, how those react to each other. It's kind of cool, and it will help you in your painting when you start glazing or you need to glaze. It will help inform you of how those paints look with each other when you overlap them or glaze them over each other. So it's just a little bit of information you can store in your noggin when you're doing that. I'm going to go with a dark here. Something to pay attention to. Like I said, anytime you are painting, you are learning. Even if you feel like your painting is the biggest crap that you've ever painted, it's just so ugly, whatever, you've still learned something from it, so it's not a failure. You can't fail when you're learning. That's not possible. When you're learning, you are winning. Because then you can take what you learn and apply it to your next painting, and your next painting will be better, hopefully. I'm just going to add some different colors in there while they're still wet. Oh, let's go with a really dark here too. Now I'm going to take some yellow Naples yellow. I'm going to do these centers. I'm just going to tap that in there. I like the Naples yellow. It's opaque, so you may have to go back over with your pen if you don't like that you've covered up your pen work in the center. Once it dries, just go back over it with your pen. For these orange flowers up here, I'm going with a dark brown, and I'm just going to dot that in the center. There. Now, one last thing. We're going to let it dry, and then we're going to hit it with some highlights with our Jelly Roll pen, our white gouache pen. If you don't have a white Jelly Roll pen, use white gouache. And I will return as soon as I finish drying this. So I've got it fairly dry now, and I'm going to take my pen. Let me see if I can get my ink going. And then you can just do highlights. Now you can do this with white gouache. I'll do both. I'll show you the pen first, and then I'll just put some white gouache on there on a different flower, just so that you can see both techniques. This would be a really pretty card. You can change the colors up to suit you. I know these are just the colors I picked, but you can use whatever colors you want. Right away, that white just sort of gives it a little oomph. Here on this one, I'll do the white gouache. So let me get my gouache activated. Let me squirt a little bit out on my palette here, so I don't have to fool with getting it reactivated. And I'm going to, with a smaller detail brush, just going to pick up some of that gouache, and then you can just do little highlights across your flowers wherever you want them. So if you don't have a jelly roll pen but you've got some white gouache, you can use your white gouache to put in some little highlights. You could even mix your gouache with some of your color, and it'll make it a little bit opaque, but it'll still lighten it up so that the highlight maybe isn't as bright. But now the gouache is going to dry not pure white, because some of that bottom layer of color is going to kind of seep into it. But I really like this project because it's messy. Anybody can do it. It's, you know, there's not a lot to it. You don't have to draw the kinds of flowers I drew. I just use what I have. And over on Patreon, I encourage you to go download the examples that I give you, the resources, so that you can try some different ones to your liking. I think I'm going to come in here too and put a little bit of highlight in that center. Do the same here, just a little bit of highlights. You can even do like lines instead of highlights. And you can always come back if you've, you know, kind of covered up some of your ink lines, your black ink lines. You can always come back and redo those to darken those up. I'm going to put a little highlight on this. Just a little highlight. And you see I'm just being really messy. I'm not even being too careful. I'm just kind of putting those on there however I want. You can put some on here if you want. Put a little highlight there. And just work your way up. I'll do a few more with the pen so that you can see the pen works as well. The pen makes great lines as well if you want to try to do some more line work with the white pen. It does a really great job. I find that the easiest way to use these jelly pens is to just lightly run them over the paper. If you press too hard for some reason, or at least with the ones I have, the paint won't come out. The ink won't come out. So I'm doing really light. You can even do some like line work on your leaves as well. Just some really messy curvy lines here and there. And that really starts to bring it to life. You can do some highlights here. Maybe a highlight here and there on some of your leaves. It's up to you. And we just want to make our little painting just so full of color and joy and texture. And you see, I'm not even being careful. I'm just slapping those on there wherever I feel like it, because we don't want it to look too frou-frou. We're not into frou-frou. And you can even do a few little lines if you want on those. Now this one, it probably needs a lot of lines here on the outer edge of this white, because that'll help lighten it up, because it is almost one tonal value. So I'm going to concentrate that white at the tips to lighten that up, and it helps make that look a little bit darker toward the center. I think I might do the same thing here. I'm just going to do lines on the outer edge. Or you can use your gouache and your brush. Up to you. I want this to look kind of crinkly though. Crinkly, crinkly, crinkly. And I'm going to put some of that white in the center here. Ooh, that really just made that pop. I might do that here too. Yeah, I like that. Do a little highlight on the leaves. And then we can do our other flowers the same way with some of that white pen. Just getting in a little bit of highlights. wherever you feel like putting them. This is totally sort of impressionistic almost, so it doesn't have to be exact. And I think that is going to be called finished. I'm going to remove this tape. Let's see what we have. Oh, I really like it. I think it's really pretty. Really, really, really pretty. Really easy. There's not a lot of really artistic things that you need to be. You don't need to be super talented, super creative, or anything like that. And now let's see. Let me pull it down so you can see it better. So there you go. That is gorgeous. Let's turn it this way so you can see. That is gorgeous. I love it, love it, love it. Thank you for joining me on day 2. Now, tomorrow we are going to be doing this with markers. Let me show you if I have it in here. Oh, it might not be in this one. Hold on, let me find it. Let me find it. Yes, it's in this one. We are going to be doing this gorgeous sunflower with some beautiful purple flowers. Now, this is going to be with watercolor marker. It is going to be with a little bit of black ink and some gouache for the background. So this is going to have black ink, watercolor marker, and gouache. And that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. So thanks for joining me. I love all my patrons. Don't forget to download your resources over on Patreon. And I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining me for day 2 of our Petals and Pigment Floral Challenge.